All right, hello and welcome. My name is Phil Melton. I'm the Vice President of Product Marketing at MercuryGate International, and I have the pleasure to once again welcome Kevin Zweier from Chainalytics with me today as we discuss flatbed fleet modeling. Kevin, please tell us a little bit about yourself again before we get started.
All right, will do. Thanks, Phil. Great to be back. As Phil said, my name is Kevin Zweier. I run our transportation practice at Chainalytics. We're a small supply chain consulting firm based down in Atlanta. My background across my career has been primarily on the consulting and software side, doing transportation procurement, transportation modeling, and transportation management system implementations.
Well, we're glad to have you here again. It's been fun these conversations we've been taping here. Let's talk a little bit about flatbed fleet modeling. So let's discuss the unique challenges around capacity and specialized equipment. And I know we talked about that before, but what should a shipper really be doing?
Well, in a space where you're having to deal with lots of specialized equipment, which inherently will typically lead to challenges around capacity, it really isn't uncommon for shippers to consider or already have private or dedicated fleets. So that's a pretty common thing that we see in the flatbed space. It's just, you just can't always find, the equipment that you need. And so you have to develop partnerships with carriers who can provide that. And oftentimes a longer, stronger relationship with a carrier will be put in place to ensure access to that equipment, and then ensure that it can be well utilized within the network.
Let's talk a little bit more about the unique challenges around capacity and specialized equipment requirements. So what, again, when I'm thinking about being a shipper in today's market, is there an optimal fleet strategy that I should be preparing?
I don't know if there's an optimal strategy that exists in general for every shipper. I mean, it's always going to be changing based upon what the shipper's business needs are, of course. But I think even a greater challenge is it's going to change based upon what is happening in the common carrier market. If we are seeing the common carrier market be very tight and a challenge to get capacity, and rates are going up, we always will then see shippers considering going to dedicated fleets or expanding the size of their dedicated fleets. Conversely, if the common carrier markets are soft, and it's easy to find capacity and prices are low, then we see shippers wanting to reevaluate and possibly reduce the size of their private or dedicated fleets. So that optimal strategy, it's always changing. It's dependent upon what's going on in the common carrier markets, and of course what's going on within a shipper's individual business.
Yeah, I can tell you, I know you and I've had conversations in the past where we talked a little bit about the current market, even in the common carrier market space, LTL, truckload, whatever. And it has been tight. I know there's a lot of demand. Capacity is the problem. I don't know yet what all the cargo issues that we were having on the inbound side for that's going to cause us to have more issues coming up in the marketplace, but I don't see the demand dropping off for quite a while as we go forward. At least that's my point of view. So when we talk about making right choices of where to really expand or reduce your size of fleet, what geographies you want the fleet in to serve, what the mission of the fleet should be, all these different kinds of questions that a shipper might have. What and how do they answer those types of questions in today's market in particular?
Well, if you want to get a truly, I'll say, operational answer, something that you could go and implement within your business, it really requires some in-depth optimization modeling to get a reasonable answer like that. A back of the envelope calculation isn't going to work if you want to ensure that you don't have idle capacity that isn't properly being utilized, or on the flip side, having products left sitting on the dock. You know, you need to understand both the pricing that exists within the common carrier markets, but then what's the cost to run and manage a fleet? Whether you're doing it as a private fleet, which then it becomes even more important for you to understand what the costs are, or if you're looking at a dedicated fleet. Once you sign up for that dedicated capacity, you need to ensure that it's running, that you're making effective use out of it. And if it's just sitting around there, then that's no better than than overpaying in the common carrier market. So, the only way to really map out and have a good idea of where to deploy this capacity, as you said, what the mission of that fleet should be, is to do a modeling exercise.
And I've been through modeling. You do a lot of modeling, right? So there's a lot of tools out there. When you talk about modeling, maybe do two things. One, let's qualify or quantify maybe, or talk a little bit more about when we say modeling, what we're talking about. And then what kind of tools do you use in today's market to do that modeling?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when we're talking about this kind of transportation modeling, it's essentially the TMS engine, right? A lot of times we're really making use of the same type of algorithms and decision making that's built into a TMS engine. So modeling tools like MercuryGate's multi-modal optimization can take into account all these different pricing structures that you're trying to evaluate between cost per mile, cost per load, cost per time unit, fixed and variable structures from a weekly, daily, or monthly basis, what the loading and unloading requirements are, the time, which is a huge piece of all of these. How much time does it take to load and unload? Which obviously, again, when we're talking in the flatbed space, has a lot more variability than what you may see in dry van. Same thing with the different types of equipment. And of course, when can you gain access, right? If you're doing job site delivery within flatbed, that's a lot different than delivering into a grocery distribution center that's open 24 hours a day. So you need to understand all those different, I'd say, data elements in order to develop a sensible what-if scenario around how you utilize a fleet. So those engines that that are similar to a TMS engine are really what's capable of doing that type of work.
Yeah, I know that one of the things that's really interesting is when you start modeling your network, one of the things that I don't know if a lot of people consider, but I would assume that you guys consider it. I know MMO definitely considers it, or MercuryGate's multi-modal optimization, we call it MMO. And that's the continuous move, right? It's if you can keep your product or keep your fleet moving, keep it, coming back with loads, or just keep it on a continuous round moves, that's way better than having an empty truck or an empty flatbed, if you will, sitting somewhere waiting for a load, for sure. So when you do these types of modeling exercises, and I know that here at Mercury we've done a number of these for our customers from the standpoint of getting their data and modeling it through MMO or multimodal optimization. How often should you really be doing those types of modeling?
Well, I certainly don't think it's something that you should only be doing, once or twice a decade. Your business is, or a shipper's business is changing too frequently nowadays for that to work. That may have worked, it may have worked in the past or a couple of decades ago, but I don't see that working anymore. It really needs to be grained into, really your strategic planning processes. I mean, we have customers who, are doing it at least every year, and some that are evaluating the usage of the fleet, every quarter, every month. And so they have standing models that are built to do that. Because understanding the different impacts to service and costs before you make changes, it's pretty important to, map out what are those continuous moves going to be? How does changes in business affect those different types of moves? What kind of consolidation opportunities, exist? And, should I be growing or shrinking my, my fleet? And I just don't think you can wait 3, 4, 5, however many years, to do that. That's something you need to be looking at a minimum, I would say, at least every 2 years. But I think people should be looking at it even more, far more frequently than that.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about, my past life. I worked with two big sports equipment companies in my past, and I would say that one of the things that really sold me on the MercuryGate TMS was their multi-modal optimization, the ability to drive cost out of my transportation network really fast by doing those things like you just said.
Yep.
Where do we have consolidation opportunities? How do we do continuous moves? How do we do the things that we need to do to really keep our carriers happy, as well as drive the cost out of our network, to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the company. So kind of wrapping this up, you have any last kind of words of wisdom for us that might need that a little bit more to tell us do more modeling, or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't have a fleet, using those modeling tools can really help guide you on how you should set up your TMS, and what the rules should be that you're building into your TMS. So, we often are doing modeling projects where there's not, quote, a fleet that's even in play, and it's more trying to figure out what is the most sensible way to set up our transportation network across multiple modal options and multiple ways that we might be able to execute. So I think there's opportunities for people to do more modeling, not just around fleet modeling, which is what we originally were talking about here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and thank you for that. And with that, I want to thank you again, Kevin, and our listeners for joining us today. So please look forward to future conversations that will help you continue to drive efficiencies within your supply chain and logistics operations. And we want to thank you. That's it.
Thank you.